Can you imagine a classroom so quiet you could hear a pin drop? That's exactly what happened when 13-year-old Thompson, a shy kid with a secret, refused to sit down in Miss Veronica Maxwell's math class at Westside Middle School. Oh, what a moment. It was like the air itself held its breath, waiting for what would come next. And let me tell you, what followed wasn't just a scene, it was a revolution that would shake the very foundations of that school. When Miss Maxwell, with her icy glare and a cruel smirk, scribbled a fiendishly complex calculus problem on the board, she thought she was setting Thompson up for humiliation. "This," she sneered, "is for my 11th grade advanced placement class." She had no clue she was about to awaken a mathematical genius who'd been quietly enduring her abuse. Why was Thompson standing, you ask? What dark, painful secret was about to burst into the open, changing everything? Picture this, it's 9:15 a.m. and Thompson rushes into class, his breath ragged, his worn backpack clutched so tightly against his chest. It's like a lifeline. "Late again, Thompson, Miss." Maxwell's voice slices through the room, sharp as a winter wind, her thin lips pursed in disdain as she points to his empty seat. "Sit down, now." Thompson freezes, his eyes flickering nervously, scanning the faces of his classmates. "I'm sorry, Miss Maxwell," he mumbles, barely audible. Can I stand for today's lesson, please?" Can you believe it? The audacity of that request. Veronica's eyebrows shoot up, her face turning red with fury. "Absolutely not!" she snaps. "You'll sit like everyone else." Thompson tries to explain, his voice trembling. "But my back." "Your back?" she mocks, her tone dripping with sarcasm. A few kids snicker, feeding off her cruelty. What's this? Another excuse. First a family emergency, now you're back. Thompson's fingers tighten around his backpack straps, his knuckles whitening. The truth is, he's in agony. Last week, Miss Maxwell struck him with a ruler for disrespectful posture, leaving welts that make sitting unbearable. But who would believe a kid like him against a teacher with 20 years of authority? "Sit down," she barks, slamming her palm on the desk so hard the room jumps. Thompson flinches but holds his ground. "I can't, Miss Maxwell," he says, his voice small but firm. The classroom goes dead silent, every eye locked on him. Veronica's gaze narrows, her calm suddenly eerie, sending a chill down Thompson's spine. "Well then," she says, her voice smooth but venomous, "since you're so special today, let's see just how special you are." She spins to the whiteboard, erasing the simple 8th grade algebra problem and replacing it with a maze of symbols and equations, stuff so advanced it looks like hieroglyphics to the class. "This," she announces, her cruel smile back, "is a calculus problem for my 11th grade AP class. Since you're too good for basic rules, solve it." While standing, the room erupts in laughter. Zach, the class clown, lets out a dramatic boo-hoo, and the others join in, reveling in Thompson's impending doom. 5 minutes, Veronica says, glancing at her watch with a smirk, "or it's detention for a week." Thompson stares at the board, his heart pounding like a drum. But wait, beneath the fear, something sparks. Recognition. Those symbols aren't total strangers. For the past year, while his peers were glued to video games or TikTok, Thompson's been sneaking off to the Westside Public Library every Tuesday and Thursday. "Back again, Thompson?" Miss S. Doyle, the sweet old librarian, would say with a knowing smile as he beelined for the math section. His love for numbers started at 7, sparked by his dad, a construction worker who never finished high school. "Math is the universe's language, son," he'd said, measuring boards for a home project. "People might let you down, but numbers, they always make sense." Those words stuck with Thompson, igniting a passion that burned brighter with every passing year. At home, in the cramped apartment he shares with his parents and little sister, life is tough. His mom pulls double shifts as a nurse's aide, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. His dad takes any construction gig he can get, his hands rough from labor, They're too busy to make school events, which Miss Maxwell takes as proof they're uninvolved. Ha ha! If only she knew. Thompson's bedroom isn't plastered with sports posters or Marvel heroes like other kids. No way. His walls are a gallery of mathematical theorems and equations he's printed from the internet, each one a treasure. 3 months ago, he hit the jackpot at the library, an advanced calculus textbook left on a table like a gift from fate. The curves of integrals, the logic of derivatives, they captivated him. Sure, the symbols were daunting at first, but Thompson saw patterns like a code he was born to crack. With free YouTube tutorials and math forums, he taught himself calculus, scribbling solutions late into the night by the glow of his phone so he wouldn't wake his sister. "Thompson, dinner!" His mom's weary voice would call, and he'd shove his notebooks under the bed. Not out of shame, never that. He just didn't want his parents worrying he was pushing too hard. One night his dad caught him. "What's all this, son?" he asked, flipping through a notebook crammed with equations. Thompson froze, nervous. "Just stuff I'm learning." His dad studied the pages in silence, then looked at him, eyes shining with pride. "You keep going, boy. Your mind's gonna take you places my hands never could." From then on, his parents supported him quietly, his mom bringing home tattered math workbooks from the hospital's charity drive, his dad calling out measurements during weekend projects, grinning when Thompson double-checked his work. At school, though, nobody knew. To them, he was just another kid, invisible until he was in trouble. But now, standing before Miss Maxwell's class, facing a calculus problem meant to crush him, Thompson's secret is on the verge of exploding into the open. The room's so quiet you can hear the wall clock ticking, 25 pairs of eyes glued to him as he stares at the board. Some kids smirk, knowing Miss Maxwell's humiliations all too well. 4 minutes left. She taunts, her voice oozing satisfaction. "Maybe this'll teach you to come prepared." Thompson barely hears her. His mind's racing, piecing together formulas he studied in secret. The problem's a beast complex integration with substitution, but it's not impossible. His pulse steadies as the math clicks into place. With shaky fingers, he grabs a marker. Oh, he's actually trying. A kid whispers, sparking giggles. Veronica leans against her desk, arms crossed, smirking like she's already won. "Tick-tock, Thompson." He takes a deep breath and starts writing. His hand moves faster, confidence growing with every step. Substitutions, calculations, elegant solutions flow onto the board. The laughter fades, replaced by confused whispers. What's he doing? Zach hisses. Too loud. No way that's right, another kid mutters. But Thompson's in a zone. The pain in his back vanishes. The classroom melts away and the snickers dissolve. It's just him and the numbers, dancing in perfect harmony. 3 minutes later, he underlines his answer twice and turns to face the class. Silence! The kind that screams. Veronica jolts upright, marching to the board, her eyes scanning his work. Her smugness cracks into confusion, then disbelief. This, she stammers, rereading his solution. Thompson waits, calm. He knows he nailed it. Her face hardens. "Where'd you copy this, Thompson?" she snaps, accusation sharp as a blade. "Memorized it somewhere? Is this a prank?" "No, ma'am," he says softly. "I solved it." "Impossible!" she shouts. "You're barely passing my 8th grade class." "But I did solve it," he insists, a spark of defiance in his voice. "It's substitution then. Enough." She cuts him off, furious. "I won't tolerate cheating. I'm not cheating," he protests, bolder now. "Check it. It's correct. Are you telling me how to do my job?" Her face is crimson. She snatches the marker, scribbling over his work, erasing his brilliance in a frenzy. Then, in a shocking move, she grabs his solution paper and rips it in half. "Principal's office, now," she yells, pointing to the door. "For cheating, disrespect, and disrupting my class." Thompson gathers his things, the class stunned. Even Zach, his longtime tormentor, stares with a mix of confusion and could it be respect. But Miss Maxwell, a soft voice pipes up from the back. It's Aisha, the shy girl who never speaks. What if he really solved it? Veronica's glare could freeze lava. Not another word. Thompson out, head high, hands trembling. He walks to the door. Behind him, the torn pieces of his solution flutter to the floor, proof of a truth Miss Maxwell refuses to face. Outside Principal Williams' office, Thompson sits on a hard bench, clutching his backpack like a shield. The secretary shoots him pitying looks tinged with suspicion. He's been here before, but never like this. Inside, Veronica's voice booms through the frosted glass door, her shadow waving wildly. Insubordination, academic dishonesty, she rants. He refused to sit, disrupted my class, and somehow produced a solution he couldn't possibly know. You're sure he cheated? Principal Williams asks, his voice deep and skeptical. Absolutely. She fires back. He's a C- student. College-level calculus? No way. He memorized it or hid the answer. Thompson closes his eyes, wishing he could vanish. Miss Maxwell's always targeted him. But this? Punishing him for being right? It's a new low. The door swings open, and Principal Williams, tall with graying temples and tired eyes, beckons. Come in, Thompson. He steps inside, standing straight despite the pain shooting through his back. Veronica sits primly, her lips a thin line of disdain. Miss Maxwell's told me what happened, the principal says, settling at his desk. What do you say? Thompson takes a deep breath. I didn't cheat, sir. I solved it. Veronica scoffs loudly. Preposterous! You've never shown math skills in my class. I've been studying advanced math on my own for a year, he says quietly. A likely story, she snaps. What's next? You're a NASA scientist. Principal Williams raises a hand. Thompson, why wouldn't you sit? He hesitates, glancing at Veronica's warning glare. Tell the truth, the principal urges. My back hurts, he whispers. From last week, when? When what? Williams leans forward. Thompson falters under Veronica's stare. I fell, he mumbles, eyes dropping. He's lying, Veronica says smoothly. It's an excuse for his behavior, refusing to sit, then this cheating stunt, all for attention. Williams studies Thompson. Miss Maxwell's taught math for 20 years. If she says this problem was too hard for you, I'm inclined to believe her. Thompson's heart cracks. All those nights studying, all that work, and it's worthless because no one believes him. I solved it, he insists, voice breaking. I can solve another. Any calculus problem. Veronica's laugh is sharp. This is tiresome. 2 days detention, Williams decides, grabbing a slip, and a warning for dishonesty. A soft knock interrupts. Miss Carter, the vibrant science teacher, steps in, her bright eyes locking on Thompson with concern. Everything okay? She asks. Spotting the detention slip, she frowns. What's going on? A disciplinary issue, Diana, Veronica says dismissively. Not your department. Carter raises an eyebrow. If it involves my best student, it's my business. Best student? Veronica scoffs. Thompson? Yes, Carter says firmly, turning to Williams. Why's he in trouble? Williams shifts uncomfortably. Miss Maxwell says he disrupted class and cheated on a calculus problem. Carter's eyes widen. Calculus? And you think he cheated? She looks at Thompson. Is this tied to your science fair project? He nods, hope flickering. Could someone finally believe him? What project? Williams asks, confused. Carter smiles. Thompson's mathematical modeling of plant growth. It won 3rd place overall, first in math. It had differential equations high school seniors would struggle with. Veronica's jaw drops. I noticed his talent last year, Carter continues. His lab reports used advanced formulas not in our curriculum. I saw his independent work. She turns to Thompson. You still have those notebooks, right? He nods, bolder now. Impossible. Veronica sputters. He's failing my class because your class bores him, Carter says bluntly. No offense, but he's way beyond what you teach. Williams looks stunned. Why wasn't I told? Thompson didn't want attention, Carter explains, giving him an apologetic look. But I won't let him be punished for something he didn't do. The room shifts. Williams grows thoughtful. Veronica's face hardens. This doesn't excuse his disobedience, she insists. Actually, Carter says, why was he refusing to sit? Thompson, you said your back hurts. Silence falls. Thompson shifts, wincing. Carter notices. Can you show us? Veronica bolts up. This is absurd. We're wasting time on theatrics. Williams raises a hand, his face grave. Show us, Thompson. Reluctantly, he lifts his shirt, revealing angry red welts ruler marks. Carter gasps. Williams' face darkens, rising from his chair. Who did this, son? He demands. Eyes on Veronica, who's gone pale. I fell, Thompson mumbles, lowering his shirt. No one gets marks like that from falling, Carter says gently. Veronica finds her voice. He's manipulating us. Those could be from anywhere home, a fight. Williams' jaw tightens. Enough, Miss Maxwell. To Thompson, was this at school? Silence. Telling the truth isn't disrespectful, Carter urges. Last week, he whispers, I wasn't fast enough at the board. The air turns toxic. Williams glares at Veronica, who grabs her things. This meeting's unproductive, she says stiffly. Sit down, he commands. We're not done. To Thompson and Carter, this needs investigation. But first, the academic issue. Thompson, can you solve advanced calculus? Yes, sir, he says confidently. Then we'll test you, Williams declares. A fair evaluation. Supervised. No cheating possible. Veronica bristles. Fine. I'll prepare it. No, Carter interjects. Someone else should, given the circumstances. You question my integrity? Veronica snaps. I'm ensuring no bias, Carter says calmly. Williams nods. Miss Maxwell, you'll prepare it, but I'll review it. To Thompson, tomorrow morning work? He nods, anxious. Detention suspended, Williams adds. I'll contact your parents about the marks. Veronica stands, fuming. If this is happening, the test must cover everything algebra to AP calculus. If he's a prodigy, let him prove it. Agreed, Williams says. But if he passes, we'll discuss your teaching methods. Thompson leaves with Carter, torn between fear and relief. Tomorrow could validate his gifts or let Veronica crush him again. At home, his mind churns with formulas, doubt creeping in. What if the test's rigged? His phone buzzes. Usual time? It's Dr. James Roberts, a math professor mentoring him for 6 months after spotting him at a community center, tackling college-level calculus. That's serious math for your age, Roberts had said, pulling up a chair. Instead of mocking, he'd worked with Thompson, offering private sessions. You've got a gift, he'd said. Thompson had hesitated to tell his parents, fearing bullying, but Roberts met them, praising his elegant thinking. Now Thompson texts back, need help. Big test tomorrow. Roberts replies, library 30 minutes. At the library, surrounded by textbooks, Thompson spills the story. Roberts' face darkens at the abuse. That's wrong, Thompson. I know, he says quietly, but she's untouchable. Roberts shakes his head. Not anymore. On the test, she'll make it brutal. You scared? What if I freeze? Thompson admits. Math isn't memorizing, Roberts says. It's patterns. Trust your instincts. They review concepts, not problems, building confidence. Want me at school tomorrow? Roberts asks. Not for the test, but to back you up. Thompson's stunned. You do that? Mentors advocate, Roberts smiles. Hope surges tomorrow's about being seen. Morning comes, nerves jangling. Carter waits outside the conference room. You've got this, she says. Inside, Williams and Veronica sit, a sealed envelope between them. Problems from algebra to AP calculus, Williams explains. 2 hours. Fair? Thompson nods. Veronica smirks. I'd be shocked if you passed the first page. The test begins. Easy algebra flies by. Trigonometry's a breeze. Pre-calculus no sweat. Calculus problems? Like old friends. Outside, Veronica paces. He's clueless, she mutters. Carter reads calmly. Why does his success scare you? She asks. Veronica freezes. The door opens. He needs more paper, Williams says. He's done. In 40 minutes. Veronica pales. He cheated. He was searched, Carter reminds her. Inside, Thompson's in his element, adding alternate solutions, at peace. At lunch, the office is tense. Veronica clutches the test. Carter smiles. You aced it, Williams says. Multiple solutions. Carter praises his rare intuition. Veronica grudgingly admits the basics are correct but doubts the advanced parts. A knock. Dr. Roberts enters, introducing himself. I've mentored Thompson 6 months. He's a genius. Veronica scoffs. Roberts reviews the test, beaming. Second-year undergrad level. Veronica's speechless. Williams apologizes to Thompson. We failed you. Plans form, advanced classes, investigation into Veronica's actions. She's left behind, her world crumbling. Word spreads, kids like Zach apologize, ask for math help. Thompson's parents confront Williams, furious but hopeful with a new academic plan. Veronica, alone, faces Roberts' truth. She feared Thompson's gift. The school board fires her, implements reforms. Thompson tutors younger kids, his confidence growing. You're a teacher, Carter says, urging a summer program, passing Veronica's old classroom, now vibrant under Mr. Diaz. Thompson sees the change he sparked. A new sign reads, Every student deserves to be seen, heard, valued. His courage lit the way. Can you feel the tension crackling in the air? The principal's office at Westside Middle School was a powder keg, ready to explode. The atmosphere had shifted so dramatically it was like the room itself was holding its breath. Principal Williams, with his thoughtful gaze, sat behind his desk while Miss Veronica Maxwell's face twisted into a mask of disbelief and indignation. She wasn't about to let this go. This still doesn't explain his refusal to follow basic classroom instructions, she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. But Miss Carter, the science teacher, with a heart as big as her enthusiasm, wasn't having it. Actually, she said, her tone careful but firm, I'd like to know more about that too. Thompson, you said your back hurts. What's going on? The room fell into an uncomfortable silence, so heavy it felt like a weight on everyone's chest. Thompson, just 13 years old, shifted his weight, wincing as pain shot through him. Miss Carter's keen eyes caught it immediately. Thompson, would you mind showing us? She asked gently, her voice a lifeline in the storm. Veronica leapt to her feet, her face flushed with outrage. This is ridiculous. We're wasting time on theatrics, she barked. But Principal Williams raised a hand, his expression as grave as a judge's. Thompson, please, he said, his voice steady but commanding. Show us what Miss Carter's talking about. Reluctantly, with trembling hands, Thompson lifted the back of his shirt just enough to reveal a shocking sight. Angry red welts crisscrossing his lower back, unmistakably the marks of a ruler's cruel bite. Miss Carter gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Principal Williams' face darkened, and he rose from his chair, fury simmering in his eyes. Who did this to you, son? He demanded, his gaze already locking onto Veronica, whose face had drained of all color, leaving her pale as a ghost. I fell, Thompson mumbled mechanically, quickly pulling his shirt down, as if he could hide the truth. Thompson, Miss Carter said, her voice soft but insistent. No one gets marks like that from falling. You know that, don't you? Veronica, scrambling to regain control, found her voice. He's clearly manipulating the situation, she declared, her tone dripping with accusation. This is an outrageous attempt to distract from his behavior. For all we know, those marks could be from home, or a fight with another kid. Principal Williams' jaw tightened, his patience wearing thin. Miss Maxwell, that's enough. He snapped, his voice like a gavel. He turned to Thompson, his eyes softening but urgent. Was this done to you at school? Thompson stared at the floor, silent, his heart pounding. The weight of Veronica's glare was almost physical, daring him to speak. Thompson, Miss Carter encouraged, her voice a beacon of trust. Telling the truth isn't disrespectful. It's brave. Finally, in a whisper so soft it barely reached the walls, he said, Last week, I couldn't solve a problem fast enough at the board. The words hung in the air like poison, toxic and undeniable. Principal Williams' expression turned thunderous as he rounded on Veronica, who was already grabbing her things, desperate to escape the truth. This meeting is clearly no longer productive, Veronica said stiffly, her voice trembling with forced composure. These baseless accusations. Sit down, Miss Maxwell, Principal Williams commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. We are far from finished. He turned back to Thompson and Miss Carter, his face a mix of resolve and regret. This is a serious matter, and it will require a formal investigation. But first, he tapped his fingers on the desk, deep in thought. We need to address the academic issue at hand. Thompson, do you truly believe you can solve advanced calculus problems? Thompson, despite the fear swirling in his gut, lifted his chin. Yes, sir, he replied, his voice quiet but steady, a spark of confidence shining through. Then I propose a test, Principal Williams announced, his words ringing with authority. A fair evaluation of your mathematical abilities, conducted under strict supervision to eliminate any chance of cheating. Is that clear? Veronica's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a sneer. Fine, she spat. I'll prepare an appropriate examination immediately. But Miss Carter wasn't about to let that slide. Actually, she interjected, her voice calm but pointed, given the circumstances. Don't you think it'd be better if someone else prepared the test? Are you questioning my professional integrity? Veronica bristled, her face reddening with indignation. I'm suggesting we remove any perception of bias, Miss Carter replied, cool as a cucumber, for everyone's benefit. Isn't that fair? Principal Williams nodded, his decision firm. Miss Maxwell, you'll prepare the test, but I'll review it beforehand to ensure it's fair. Understood? He turned to Thompson, his tone softening. Would tomorrow morning work for you, Thompson? It'll give you some time to prepare. Thompson nodded, though a flicker of anxiety crossed his face. What if this was his last chance? In the meantime, Principal Williams continued, I'll be contacting your parents about those physical marks, and the detention is suspended until we have the test results. Veronica stood again, her movements stiff with barely contained anger. If you're allowing this charade, she said, her voice icy, then I insist it's done properly. The test should cover problems from multiple grade levels, all the way up to advanced placement calculus. If he's truly the mathematical prodigy Miss Carter claims, he should have no problem proving it, right? Agreed, Principal Williams said, his voice unwavering. But let me be clear, Miss Maxwell. If Thompson passes this test, we'll be having serious conversations about your teaching methods and classroom conduct. Do you understand? As Thompson left the office with Miss Carter, his heart was a whirlwind of terror and relief. Tomorrow could be the day his secret genius was finally recognized, or the day Veronica Maxwell found a new way to punish him for daring to shine. Could he do this? Behind them, through the still open door, Veronica's voice rose in a shrill protest. This is absolutely outrageous. My reputation is beyond reproach. Principal Williams' response was too quiet to catch, but the steel in his tone made one thing clear. Veronica's iron grip on her authority was slipping, and fast. Walking home that afternoon, Thompson's mind was a storm of formulas and theorems, each one a lifeline he clung to. But doubt crept in like a thief. What if the test was rigged to make him fail? What if Miss Maxwell twisted the truth again, no matter how well he did? His phone buzzed, snapping him out of his spiral. Usual time today? The message was from Dr. James Roberts, a mathematics professor at the nearby university who'd become his mentor 6 months ago at the Westside Community Center's free tutoring program. Dr. Roberts had spotted Thompson alone, poring over a calculus textbook meant for college freshmen. "That's some serious math for someone your age," he'd said, peering over Thompson's shoulder. Thompson had braced for mockery, but instead, Dr. Roberts pulled up a chair. "Mind walking me through this integral? For an hour, they'd tackled problems together." Dr. Roberts nodding in approval or offering gentle tweaks. By the end, he'd made an offer that changed everything. "You have a gift, Thompson," he'd said, his eyes warm with sincerity. "And gifts need nurturing. How about we work together twice a week?" Thompson had been floored. A real professor wanted to mentor him? At first, he'd hesitated to tell his parents, worried they'd fear he'd become a target for bullies if word got out. But Dr. Roberts insisted on meeting them, sitting in their modest living room and explaining the incredible opportunity. "Your boy has what we mathematicians call elegant thinking," he told Thompson's wide-eyed parents. "He doesn't just solve problems, he sees patterns and connections most college students miss. It's extraordinary." Thompson's dad, a construction worker with weathered hands, sat up straighter, pride glowing in his tired eyes. Always knew he had something special. His mom, a nurse's aide, who worked grueling double shifts, asked practical questions about time and schoolwork. Dr. Roberts reassured them Thompson could handle both, his confidence infectious. Now, staring at the text, Thompson made a snap decision. "Need extra help," he typed. "Big test tomorrow. Super important." The reply was instant. "Library, 30 minutes. Let's do this." That evening, in a cozy corner of the Westside Public Library, Thompson and Dr. Roberts sat, surrounded by open textbooks and notepads scribbled with equations. The library's warm glow felt like a safe haven. "So, your teacher finally caught on to what you can do, huh?" Dr. Roberts said, his dark eyes twinkling behind wire-rimmed glasses. At 58, with salt and pepper hair and a neatly trimmed beard, he exuded the quiet confidence of a lifelong scholar. "Not exactly," Thompson replied, his voice heavy as he recounted the humiliating classroom incident and its shocking aftermath. Dr. Roberts' face darkened when Thompson mentioned the welts. "That's abuse, Thompson." "Plain and simple," he said, his voice low but fierce. "I know," Thompson admitted, barely above a whisper, "but no one would have believed me." "She's been teaching forever, Doctor." Roberts shook his head, sadness in his eyes. "Too often, we shield institutions instead of the people they're meant to serve. That's not right." He straightened, his tone sharpening with focus. "Now, about this test, from what you've said, Miss Maxwell's going to make it as tough as she can. She's scared of you, you know that? I'm scared too," Thompson confessed, his voice cracking. "What if I freeze? What if I forget the formulas?" Dr. Roberts leaned in, his gaze steady. "Mathematics isn't about memorizing formulas, Thompson. It's about understanding concepts, seeing patterns. Your mind, it's wired for this. Miss Maxwell can't take that away from you. Trust yourself, okay?" For the next 2 hours, they dove into concepts from basic algebra to differential calculus, not drilling specific problems, but strengthening Thompson's problem-solving instincts. Dr. Roberts' calm guidance was like a lighthouse in a storm. As they packed up, he paused. "Thompson, want me to come to school tomorrow? Not for the test, that's your moment to shine, but after, to explain your abilities to your principal." Thompson's eyes widened. "You do that for me?" "Of course," Dr. Roberts smiled warmly. "Mentors don't just teach, we advocate. You're not alone in this." For the first time since the classroom ordeal, Thompson felt a surge of hope. Tomorrow wasn't just about proving Miss Maxwell wrong, it was about being seen, truly seen for who he was. The next morning, Thompson arrived at school early, his stomach churning with nerves. The hallways were eerily quiet, teachers bustling to prep for the day. Principal Williams had set the test in a conference room, not Miss Maxwell's classroom, a small mercy that felt like a lifeline. As he neared the room, Miss Carter was waiting outside, her smile a burst of encouragement. "Thought you might need some moral support," she said, her eyes bright. "How you holding up?" "Nervous," Thompson admitted, his voice shaky. "But I'm ready, I think." She squeezed his shoulder. "Just do your best, Thompson. That's more than enough." Inside, Principal Williams and Veronica sat at a table, a sealed envelope between them. "Good morning, Thompson," Williams said formally. "Here's how this works. This envelope contains problems from 8th grade algebra to AP calculus. Miss Maxwell prepared them, and I've reviewed them for fairness. You've got 2 hours to solve as many as you can. Clear?" Thompson nodded, his throat tight. Veronica, arms crossed, her face unreadable, added, "The problems get harder. Frankly, I'd be shocked if you get past the first page." Her sneer stung, but Miss Carter's frown kept Thompson grounded. "I'll monitor to ensure no cheating," Williams continued. "Miss Maxwell and Miss Carter, please wait outside. Any questions, Thompson?" He shook his head, settling at the table. "Then begin." Williams broke the seal, handing him the test, pencils, and a calculator. As the teachers left, Thompson took a deep breath, glancing at the first problem. A simple algebraic equation, almost laughably easy. He solved it in seconds, moving on. The first page, all 8th grade stuff, took less than 5 minutes. The second page, complex algebra and trigonometry, was still in his wheelhouse. By the third page, pre-calculus kicked in, but he worked steadily, double-checking his answers. When he hit the calculus problems on page 4, his heart skipped. These were like the ones he'd tackled with Dr. Roberts. Familiar, like old friends. Outside, Veronica paced like a caged animal, muttering, "This is a waste of time." He's probably staring at the paper, clueless. Miss Carter, calmly reading a science journal, looked up. "Why does his success threaten you so much, Veronica?" she asked, her voice piercing. Veronica froze. "Excuse me? You've taught for over 20 years, Carter said, meeting her gaze. Your position's secure, your reputation's solid. So why does this one kid's brilliance scare you?" Before Veronica could snap back, the door opened. Principal Williams stepped out, his face neutral. "He needs more paper," he said. "He's finished the entire test." Veronica's jaw dropped. "Impossible. It's been less than 40 minutes, and he's providing alternate solutions for some problems," Williams added, grabbing paper from a cabinet. Veronica's composure cracked. "He's cheating!" "Maybe a hidden phone." "He was searched. At your insistence," Carter reminded her. "Williams hasn't left him. At some point, Veronica, you've got to admit you might be wrong." Inside, Thompson was in his element, the anxiety melting away as he lost himself in the elegant dance of mathematics. For each calculus problem, he offered multiple approaches, his neat handwriting spelling out his reasoning with precision. When he set down his pencil, nearly an hour early, a quiet peace settled over him. He'd done his best. The truth of his abilities was on those pages. Undeniable. Williams collected the test. "I make copies for Miss Maxwell and Miss Carter to review. We'll meet at lunch to discuss." As Thompson left, curious students peeked from the hall, whispers spreading about the special test. For once, he didn't shy from the attention. He wasn't the problem kid anymore. He was the kid solving problems. At 12:30, the principal's office buzzed with tension. Veronica sat rigid, clutching Thompson's test, her face tight with suppressed emotion. Miss Carter, smiling slightly, nodded at Thompson encouragingly. Williams gestured to a chair. "Sit, Thompson." Noticing his hesitation, he added, "I've got a cushion for you." The small gesture, acknowledging his pain, warmed Thompson as he sat carefully. "I've reviewed your test," Williams began, "as have Miss Maxwell and Miss Carter. Anything to say before we discuss?" Thompson glanced at Veronica's stony face. "No, sir," he said softly. "The work speaks for itself." "And it does," Williams agreed, holding up the test. "You answered every question correctly and gave multiple solutions for the advanced problems." "Miss Carter, your assessment?" Carter leaned forward, beaming. "Thompson's work shows not just skill, but deep understanding. His creative approaches to calculus are rare, even among advanced students." "Miss Maxwell?" Williams prompted. Veronica cleared her throat, reluctant. "The algebra and trigonometry are correct," she admitted. "But the advanced parts, I'm skeptical." "Skeptical of what?" Carter cut in. "Your problems. A controlled setting, perfect solutions with clear steps. What's left to doubt?" "He must have been coached," Veronica insisted, her voice rising. "No 13-year-old could," a knock interrupted. Williams frowned but called, "Come in!" The door opened, and Dr. James Roberts stepped in, wire-rimmed glasses glinting, salt and pepper beard neatly trimmed. Thompson's face lit up. "Dr. Roberts." "Sorry for the interruption," Roberts said smoothly. "I'm James Roberts, math professor at State University. I'm here to provide context on Thompson's abilities." Williams, surprised, offered a chair. "How are you connected?" "I've mentored Thompson for 6 months," Roberts said, sitting. "He's the most gifted young mathematician I've seen in 30 years. Veronica's skepticism turned to shock. "A university professor? Tutoring an 8th grader?" "Not tutoring, mentoring," Roberts corrected. "Thompson doesn't need remedial help. He needs advanced material to nurture his talent. We met at the community center. He was tackling calculus problems alone." Dr. Roberts offered to help, Thompson added, his voice stronger. "Could this be the moment everything changed? Can you feel the weight of the moment?" The air in Principal Williams' office was thick with tension, like a storm about to break. As Dr. James Roberts, the distinguished university professor, stepped into the room, everything seemed to pause. Principal Williams leaned back in his chair, his brow furrowed, processing this unexpected revelation about Thompson, the quiet 13-year-old who'd just turned their world upside down. "Dr. Roberts, would you be willing to review Thompson's test and give us your professional assessment?" he asked, his voice steady but curious. "Absolutely, Doctor." Roberts replied with a warm nod, accepting the test copy with a glint of pride in his eyes. As he flipped through the pages, his face lit up, a smile spreading wider with each problem. "Outstanding work, Thompson," he murmured, his voice brimming with admiration. "Your solution to problem 17, pure elegance. What a brilliant approach." He looked up at Principal Williams, his tone unwavering. "There's no doubt in my mind Thompson solved these problems independently. His work mirrors the unique, creative style I've seen in our mentoring sessions. Honestly," he added, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses, "his mathematical understanding is on par with a second-year college math major. Can you believe that, Miss?" Veronica Maxwell, rigid in her chair, let out a strangled gasp of disbelief. "This is absurd," she sputtered, her face a mix of shock and indignation. "Yesterday, he was just another student, and now we're supposed to believe he's some kind of prodigy? It's preposterous." Dr. Roberts fixed her with a firm, unflinching gaze. "He was never just another student, Miss Maxwell," he said, his voice resonant with conviction. "Thompson is a gifted young man whose brilliance went unrecognized worse. It was actively suppressed by an educational system that should have lifted him up. How could we let that happen?" The silence that followed was deafening, every word hanging heavy in the room. Principal Williams broke it, his voice calm but resolute. "I believe we have more than enough evidence to confirm that Thompson's mathematical abilities are truly exceptional. and his solution to Miss Maxwell's classroom challenge was absolutely legitimate. He turned to Thompson, his eyes softening with regret. "I owe you an apology, son. I didn't believe you at first, and for that I'm deeply sorry. This school failed you, and that's on us." For Thompson, those words were like a balm to his wounded spirit, a simple acknowledgement of the truth that meant more than any trophy or praise. He nodded, blinking back tears that welled up unbidden, his heart swelling with a mix of relief and validation. "What happens now?" Miss Carter asked, her voice cutting through the charged atmosphere, echoing the question burning in everyone's mind. Principal Williams straightened, his posture signaling determination. "First, we need to create an educational plan that actually challenges Thompson at his true level of ability. He deserves that." Second, his gaze shifted to Veronica, who sat frozen, her face pale and tense. "We must address the serious allegations of physical punishment." Veronica's voice was weak, almost desperate. "Those marks could have come from anywhere. There's no proof," she protested, but her words lacked conviction. "There will be an investigation," Principal Williams declared, his tone unyielding. "And I'll be speaking with Thompson's parents this afternoon." He turned to Thompson and Dr. Roberts, his expression softening again. "Thank you both for your patience through this ordeal. Dr. Roberts, would you be willing to keep working with our school to support Thompson's growth?" "It'd be my privilege," Dr. Roberts replied, his warm smile a beacon of support. As Thompson and Dr. Roberts left the office, Veronica stayed behind, her carefully built world crumbling like a house of cards. Can you imagine the weight of that moment for her? The facade of the untouchable educator, the respected authority, was shattering under the truth of her actions. Meanwhile, word of Thompson's extraordinary mathematical talents spread through Westside Middle School like wildfire. By the next morning, the hallways buzzed with whispers and wide-eyed stares. Kids who'd once ignored Thompson now gawked as he walked by, their curiosity palpable. Some mustered the courage to approach him, their questions tumbling out. Others, like Zach, the class clown who'd mocked him for months, shuffled up with awkward apologies. "Is it true you can do college-level math?" Zach asked at lunch, sliding onto the bench across from Thompson, his tone a mix of awe and disbelief. "Everyone's talking about it." Before Thompson could respond, 3 more students crowded around their table, a first in his school life. "My brother's in calculus at the high school," a girl named Mia said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "He didn't believe me when I told him about you, so he sent this problem." She slid a notebook toward Thompson, her voice bubbling with anticipation. "He says it's super tough." Thompson glanced at the page and gave a small, confident smile. "It's a partial differential equation," he said casually. "Not that complicated, really." He grabbed a pencil and started working through it, explaining each step with a clarity that left the growing crowd of students spellbound. Can you picture their faces watching this quiet kid unravel a problem that stumped high schoolers? While Thompson became the talk of the school, a far more serious conversation was unfolding in the administrative wing. Thompson's parents sat across from Principal Williams, their faces a storm of anger and resolve as they studied photographs of their son's injuries, taken by the school nurse. The images were undeniable red welts that told a story of cruelty. "We trusted this school with our son," Mr. Thompson said, his voice tight, with barely controlled rage. "We worked extra shifts, scraped by, just to live in this district because the schools were supposed to be better. And this is how our boy was treated? How could this happen?" Mrs. Thompson, still in her nurse's aide uniform from a grueling morning shift, wiped away a tear, her voice trembling. "All those times he didn't want to go to school. He never told us why. We thought maybe other kids were bullying him, but never a teacher." Her words broke off, choked by emotion. Principal Williams bowed his head, his expression heavy with shame. "I understand your anger," he said gravely, and you have every right to feel this way. We've already launched a formal investigation, and Miss Maxwell has been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome. This isn't the end. That's not enough, Mr. Thompson insisted, his voice rising with righteous fury. She struck our child over and over, and then tried to humiliate him when he showed what he's capable of. That's unforgivable. Principal Williams nodded, his resolve firm. We're also rolling out immediate policy changes, he assured them. A strict ban on any form of physical discipline, mandatory reporting of all disciplinary actions, and most importantly, a tailored academic plan for Thompson. He slid a folder across the desk, his tone earnest. Dr. Roberts helped us draft this proposal. It includes advanced math classes at the high school 3 mornings a week, ongoing mentorship with Dr. Roberts, and modified assignments in his regular classes to keep him engaged. Mrs. Thompson opened the folder, her eyes widening as she scanned the pages. This is more than we ever dreamed for him, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Your son has extraordinary gifts, Principal Williams said sincerely. Gifts we failed to recognize and nurture. I'm committed to making sure that never happens again, not to Thompson, not to any student. We owe you that much. As the meeting stretched on, Veronica Maxwell sat alone in her Stark apartment, staring at the formal notice of investigation on her coffee table. 27 years of teaching, a spotless record, and now this. Her world was unraveling. The image she'd crafted, the respected educator, the unassailable authority, was collapsing under the weight of her own choices. Her phone buzzed for the 5th time that morning, another colleague calling, probably to offer shock or that half-hearted support that tiptoed around her guilt. She ignored it, her mind spiraling. The truth gnawed at her. She'd seen Thompson's intelligence from the start. It had rattled her, threatened the rigid order of her classroom, where excellence was supposed to come from years of disciplined study and deference to her authority, not from some innate gift in a quiet boy from a working-class family who sometimes missed homework because his parents were stretched thin. A sharp knock at her door jolted her from her thoughts. She opened it to find Dr. Roberts, his expression somber but not unkind. Dr. Roberts, she said stiffly, bracing for judgment. If you're here to gloat, I'm here to understand, he interrupted gently, his voice disarming. May I come in? Reluctantly, she stepped aside, her defenses wavering. Dr. Roberts entered, waving off her mechanical offer of coffee. I've been teaching for over 30 years, he began, settling into an armchair, his tone reflective. I've seen thousands of students, some struggle, some soar, but a rare few have something truly extraordinary. Thompson's one of those rare gems. So everyone keeps saying, Veronica replied bitterly, her voice laced with resentment. Dr. Roberts pressed on, undeterred. What I don't get, Veronica, is why you felt threatened by that. Why try to dim his light instead of helping it shine? Why? Her composure cracked, her voice trembling, because he made a mockery of everything I've built. I spent decades mastering mathematics, earning my expertise through sweat and sacrifice. Then this child waltzes in and grasps concepts it took me years to understand. How is that fair, Doctor? Robert studied her, his gaze thoughtful but piercing. Mathematics isn't about fairness, Miss Maxwell, it's about truth. Some minds, like Thompson's, are wired to see patterns and connections others have to work hard for. That doesn't lessen your achievements or your knowledge. He leaned forward, his voice earnest. The real tragedy isn't Thompson's gift, it's that you saw it as a threat instead of a chance to inspire him, your other students, and even yourself. What could you have learned from him? Veronica's hands covered her face, decades of rigid certainty crumbling under the weight of a truth she could no longer dodge. That evening, the school board meeting was electric. The district conference room packed by 6:15 p.m., though it wasn't set to start until 7:00. Parents, teachers, students, and community members filled every chair, with others lining the walls. their faces a mix of outrage and hope. Local news crews set up cameras, drawn by the leaked story of Thompson's ordeal, which had sparked a firestorm of calls for accountability. Thompson sat in the front row with his parents, squirming under the spotlight but steadied by Dr. Roberts' calm presence beside him. Behind them, Miss Carter and a group of supportive teachers formed a quiet but powerful show of solidarity. At exactly 7, Board President Eleanor Washington, a stern woman with decades of educational experience, called the meeting to order, her voice commanding attention. "Tonight, we've changed our agenda to address the grave allegations at Westside Middle School," she announced. "We'll hear from Principal Williams, then open the floor for public comments, before sharing our decisions on disciplinary actions and policy changes. This is about justice." Principal Williams took the podium, his expression heavy with responsibility. "Thank you, Madam President, board members," he began, his voice steady but somber. "What I'm about to share is deeply troubling, but it's essential for transparency and healing." He recounted Thompson's story, the classroom humiliation, the shocking discovery of physical abuse, and the revelation of his extraordinary mathematical talents. Most alarming, he concluded, is that our system failed to protect a student from mistreatment and failed to recognize his exceptional abilities. These are failures we must correct immediately. A murmur rippled through the crowd as he returned to his seat. Board President Washington opened the floor for comments, and Thompson's father was first to speak, his voice steady but raw with emotion. "My son endured pain and humiliation in silence because he didn't think adults would believe him over a teacher. That's not just one person's failure. It's a betrayal of trust in our entire school system." Miss Carter followed, her voice passionate as she called for better ways to spot and support gifted students. Parents chimed in, their outrage palpable, demanding accountability. Then, in a moment no one saw coming, Zach, the former class clown, stepped to the microphone, his hands trembling. "I'm in Miss Maxwell's class with Thompson," he said nervously. "I used to laugh when she picked on him, thinking it was just how teachers keep control. I feel awful now." He glanced at Thompson, his eyes apologetic. "If even kids like me could see she was targeting him, why couldn't the adults? How did they miss it?" His raw honesty hung in the air, a powerful indictment of not just Veronica, but the culture that enabled her. After nearly an hour of heartfelt comments, Washington called for order. "We've heard you and we share your concerns," she said, her voice firm. "The board has deliberated and reached these decisions." The room fell silent, every eye on her. First, regarding Miss Veronica Maxwell, based on evidence, including documented injuries, witness statements, and her own admissions, we voted unanimously to terminate her employment, effective immediately. We're also reporting this to the state licensing board, recommending her teaching credential be revoked. Applause erupted, swiftly hushed by Washington's raised hand. "But accountability doesn't stop there," she continued. "We're implementing district-wide changes, mandatory training on spotting and reporting abuse, a zero-tolerance policy for physical discipline, new systems to identify and support gifted students, and an anonymous reporting system for students to voice concerns safely." She looked directly at Thompson and his parents, her voice softening. "On behalf of the district, I offer our deepest apology for the harm done to Thompson and our commitment to ensure this never happens again." As the meeting ended, Thompson was swarmed by well-wisher students, parents, teachers, all offering support and admiration. The attention was overwhelming, but for the first time, it wasn't negative. They saw him, truly saw him, for who he was. That night, driving home, Thompson's mom reached back to squeeze his hand. "I'm so proud of you, baby," she said, her voice thick with love. "Not just for being brilliant. I've always known you were, but for your courage." Thompson shook his head, humble as ever. "I wasn't courageous," he admitted. "I never spoke up about what was happening." His dad met his eyes in the rearview mirror, his voice firm. But you never gave up, son. You kept learning, kept growing, even when they tried to hold you back. That's real courage, the kind that changes lives. Thompson managed a small smile, watching his neighborhood's familiar streets pass by. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, advanced classes, higher expectations, the strange feeling of being valued. But tonight, wrapped in his parents' pride, he let himself bask in the relief of truth, finally acknowledged. 3 months later, Westside Middle School was transformed, the changes both subtle and profound. Bright anti-bullying posters lined the hallways, their messages of respect and inclusion a stark contrast to the old, tense atmosphere. A new Exceptional Talents program had identified 17 students with gifts ranging from math to music to linguistics, ensuring they'd be nurtured, not overlooked. But the biggest shift was in the school's culture. Teachers who once ignored troubling behavior now stepped in decisively. Students who'd stayed silent about unfair treatment found their voices. In the faculty lounge, talk of problem kids gave way to ideas for engaging and supporting them. Thompson, now taking advanced math classes at the high school 3 mornings a week, had become a quiet celebrity not just for his math prowess, but for sparking this change. The initial unease of being noticed faded into a cautious confidence as he realized his story had lifted others up. On this Tuesday afternoon, he sat in the school library, surrounded by eager 6th and 7th graders. What started as a quick homework question had turned into a full-blown tutoring session. So, see, Thompson explained, sketching a diagram. Word problems have patterns hidden inside. You just need to translate the words into numbers. A 6th grader named Amara lit up. That makes so much sense. Miss Collins never explained it like that. Thompson grinned. Different explanations work for different folks. Maybe this clicks for you. From a nearby table, Miss Carter watched, her heart swelling with pride. After the bell, as the kids scattered, she approached. "You're a natural teacher, Thompson," she said, her smile wide. "You've got a gift for making complex stuff simple." He gathered his books, a bit shy under her praise. "I just know what it's like to be confused and feel unheard," he said softly. "That empathy?" "It's everything," Carter replied. "Have you thought more about that summer math program at the university Dr. Roberts mentioned?" "You've been on the fence." Thompson nodded, hesitant. "My parents say I can go, but I'm still getting used to people seeing me, really seeing me." Carter nodded, understanding. For a kid who'd spent years fading into the background to avoid trouble, the spotlight, however positive, was daunting. "Take your time," she advised. "But don't let old fears hold you back from new possibilities. You're too big for that." As they left the library, they passed Veronica Maxwell's old classroom, now Mr. Diaz's domain. The young teacher's enthusiasm and inclusive style had made him a student favorite. Through the open door, Thompson saw him animatedly explaining a concept, weaving through the room, not looming at the front. Students were engaged, hands up, voices lively, a far cry from the oppressive silence of Veronica's reign. "Some good came out of all this," Thompson said quietly, a note of wonder in his voice. "Because of your courage," Carter reminded him, her words a gentle nudge. Outside, in the spring sunshine, Thompson spotted his dad's truck in the pickup lane. Since the board meeting, his parents had reshuffled their grueling work schedules to be there for his school events and academic journey. "See you tomorrow, Miss Carter," he called, waving. "Don't forget, science club's presenting at the board meeting Thursday," she shouted back, her grin infectious. As Thompson walked to the truck, a group of 8th graders nodded in greeting kids who'd once ignored or mocked him. The memory of standing in Miss Maxwell's classroom, back throbbing, solving a calculus problem meant to break him, felt like a distant dream. That day had been a turning point, not just for him, but for the entire school. One teacher's cruelty, meant to crush a student, had instead ignited a movement to see and celebrate every child's unique potential. Thompson climbed into the truck, already chattering excitedly about equations he'd explored with Dr. Roberts. As they drove away, the afternoon sun caught the new sign by the school's entrance. Installed just last week, every student deserves to be seen, heard, and valued for who they truly are. Thompson's courage had made that truth shine. Oh, how Thompson's story burns in my heart. It's a blazing reminder that every child's potential is a sacred spark, too often smothered by rigid systems or cruel authority. I'm furious at how Veronica Maxwell's abuse and dismissal of Thompson's genius reflect a broader societal failure to cherish unique talents, especially in kids from working-class families. Why do we let outdated notions of discipline or fairness crush brilliance? It's heartbreaking that Thompson hid his pain and gifts, fearing no one would believe him. Yet his courage, oh, it's inspiring. To stand tall and shine despite the odds stirs hope in me. This speaks to a lifestyle I passionately believe in, one where we nurture curiosity and individuality, not conformity. Socially, we must dismantle cultures that enable educators like Veronica to wield unchecked power, silencing students. I'm thrilled by the school's transformation, new policies, anti-bullying measures, and programs for gifted kids, but it's infuriating it took such pain to get there. We need to listen to kids, believe them, and create spaces where they feel safe to soar. Thompson's triumph isn't just his, it's a call to action. Let's live boldly, championing every child's right to be seen, heard, and valued. How dare we do any less?